And welcome back to the Eat, Drink, Explore Radio Network's Market Fresh Hour. I am your host, Randall White. It is 33 minutes past the hour. Nice to have you with us here today. This portion of Eat, Drink, Explore Radio is brought to you by our good friends, really good friends at Luna Red Restaurant, just off historic Mission Plaza in downtown San Luis Obispo. Luna Red, like them on Facebook to learn about their daily $9 lunch specials Monday through Friday. You know, they are serving globally inspired small plates with ingredients sourced from right here on the Central Coast. Your neighbors are producing the food. Slows, San Luis Obispo's true farm-to-table dining experience. Whether you're visiting town or you call this stretch of the Central Coast your home, Luna Red is a locavor's dream. For more information, head to lunaredslo.com and make sure you tell your server, tell the hostess, whoever it might be, that you heard about them here on the Market Fresh Radio Hour. Now, this portion of our show is where we explore all aspects of the producing side of fresh produce and artisanal specialties, whether it's trends or issues involving growing techniques, new and exciting products, or old standbys that are making a comeback. Today, we're looking at the financial side of being a small farmer in today's world. You know, how do you compete with big ag, and where does the startup or improvement money come from? I guess that's an issue no matter what your business is, but for farmers, there are some very unique challenges. And joining us on the Market Fresh Live Line today is Eric Winders from the Santa Cruz-based organization California FarmLink. Welcome to the program, Eric. Great to have you here.
Great. Thanks, Randall. It's great to be here.
Yeah. So California FarmLink, I had not heard of until just recently. And so maybe you can help. There'll be a lot of people out there like myself. Explain a little bit. What does California FarmLink do?
Sure. Well, we are a statewide nonprofit organization. We're an independent nonprofit organization. We've been around since 1999. So that's, I guess, going on 14 years. And the original premise of the foundation of the organization was connecting beginning aspiring farmers with retiring farmers, so making that transition between the generational gaps. But we've morphed over the years and looked at different ways that we can help small, mid-sized, family-scale farmers. And so our real focus is helping farmers access land and helping farmers access capital. That's sort of the two pillars upon which we stand. And then we sort of have our other pillar, I guess, which is assisting farmers with business development.
Mm-hmm. So all those are very key, of course. And we hear varying statistics on the number of small farms that still exist, that they're going away because the big farms come in and they buy up some of the small farms, and these large organizations just get bigger and bigger. How strong is the community of California small farmers right now?
Actually, that's a really interesting statistic because it's you actually, when you look at the census data, that's and I was brought up with that the same thing happening. Especially I'm from the East Coast, and we see that in New York, and over the years the small farms have certainly diminished, and the overall number of farms because of consolidation has diminished. But the last couple of census, the USDA agricultural census, has actually shown an increase in the number of small farms in California. And we're still waiting on the current census data, but between 2002 and 2007, there was actually a pretty substantial increase in those farms that were 9 acres and under, 49 acres and under, whereas we're seeing the overall numbers decrease, but those actual smaller groupings of farms increase. And so we're seeing a real renaissance in the number of small farms in California, which is pointing to the fact that people are staying on that ground longer, making those businesses more profitable. And it's that sense that we get, probably a gut sense, when we see more farmers market, more farm-to-table type restaurant operations, more CSA operations. We sort of sense that when we're out there in the world, but the data actually is supporting that. That sort of gut sense that small farms are actually fairly strong. I'm not saying it's a really easy business or anything like that, but there's actually been a really strong renaissance
Yeah.
in the small farm community.
I'm so happy to hear that because like you said, you sense it when you're out there and you hear about it a lot and you see it on menus constantly, that this comes from this little, the apples that you're having as part of your dessert today, come from a small family run farm. And I always think to myself, well, how many of those are there really left?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm happy to hear that they're growing.
Yeah, and again, it's not, you look at those numbers and there's obviously a lot of those are basic numbers.
Yeah.
Maybe there's I think the increase was almost 700 farms between small farms under 9 acres. I think that's it. I could be off a little bit.
Yeah, what's the
but
cutoff?
Obviously, but go ahead.
What's the cutoff? Where what's considered a small farm or a medium-sized farm, and then at what point does it become, and in some cases I would imagine they're still family-run operations, but they just have a really big operation,
Exactly. Actually, so there's no cutoff on the acreage in terms of defining a small farm. It's actually defined on the gross revenue of the farm itself. So in most cases, and I believe the USDA is the same, it's considered to be a small farm if you gross $250,000 or under. And then I believe mid-scale is, they might have raised it last year. It was prior 750,000, and they might have raised that to up to $1 million for their definition. So it's on that level. It's based on the actual revenue. But I think most of us think of it in terms of acreage. Obviously, under 10 acres is definitely considered a small operation. Yeah. Although they may, because of whatever they're doing there, they may be considered a mid-scale operation in terms of their revenue if they're producing a very high-value crop or have an incredible value-added operation that may increase the revenue, whatever it may be. So it's I guess it's a little bit of a moving target on the acreage side, but there's sort of those official definitions and more the definitions that we can actually see when we see farms or visit farms in terms of the actual acreage size.
So Eric, there are people listening right now in Santa Cruz County, Monterey County, San Luis Obispo, San Benito, all these really heavy ag areas that I would imagine have a large concentration of these small farms that you talk about. And they may be people that are thinking about getting into this because, like you said, the numbers are growing. So there are people that are moving into this realm. And then there's others that just need a little help right now to get over the hump. Maybe some of their equipment is antiquated or they want to, switch to organic or whatever it may be. There's a financial burden. And California FarmLink can step in and help at this point.
Sure. And recently, Randall, the National Young Farmers Union did a nationwide survey of about 1,000, I think, beginning farmers. So the term beginning farmer actually means anyone who's been farming 10 years or under. That's the USDA definition. So they recognize it's a pretty long learning curve at 10 years. And so the National Young Farmers Coalition, or Union, did a survey a few years ago, and they found that access to capital was one of the most significant barriers for success.
Yeah.
And it's definitely, as any startup or small business, people know that capital is hard to come by, but specifically it's very hard to come by for farmers.
Because you're dealing with land, and you're dealing with land in California. That is the pot of gold.
Yeah, it don't get much more expensive than this.
No, if you're doing a computer startup, you can do it in some rundown warehouse in the low rent district, and really churn out a product that somebody wants for a relatively low capital. It's all sort of brain power. But when you're talking about farming, you're talking about a lot of expense, and then what you're selling doesn't really go for a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And so one of the and again, I grew up in a whole different part of the country, obviously upstate New York, with a different set of land values. But out here, it's specifically along the coast of California, people in general don't say, hey, I'm going to start farming, I'm going to buy a piece of property. They say, I'm going to start farming, where can I lease some good land?
Right.
And so, leasing's become a very good strategy for beginning farmers and for the short term and for the long term. And so recognizing that, California FarmLink said, okay, we see that people need capital. It's really hard to get capital for just the regular operating and equipment costs. And so we started our loan program about 6 years ago, and we took it in-house 2 years ago, and we are an FSA guaranteed lender, which is the USDA's Farm Service Agency. So we have a guaranteed lending program. And so when we said, hey, folks need some money. They're looking for money for lease rates, for paying labor, for any sort of operating costs, boxes, irrigation, as well as trucks and tractors. And so we started focusing our resources on providing small farmers with that sort of capital.
Anytime that you dip your toe in the federal leasing waters, there is going to be enough paperwork to fill a room. I imagine that California FarmLink can help walk people through that paperwork. And I do want to mention, since it's very topical, that Eric, you will be speaking on this exact topic coming up in next month, about a month from now, Saturday, October the 26th, at the Central Coast Bioneers Conference, that being held in San Luis Obispo at the Monday Club. They can come speak to you, and if anyone has further questions after listening to you today, they can address you personally, right, and say, "What do I do?"
Yeah, no, that's correct. Yeah, we're going to have I think it's an hour session where we're going to have 3 or 4 panel members. Myself will be down there, and a gentleman from Slow Money, a gentleman from Farm Credit West will be there as well. And I think we've got one more person from a local bank or credit union, I think coming by.
Great.
And what we're going to be doing is just really Q&A as much as we can, addressing the issues around startup money for small farmers, or that working capital that you need for infrastructure and or operating costs.
Eric Winders with California FarmLink. Find them online at cafarmlink.org. Thank you so much, Eric. We'll catch you in a month.
All right. Thanks so much, Randall. Have a good one.
Everyone, stick around. We're back in a minute.